Tucker Carlson has, for a reason that I cannot possibly fathom, gotten obsessed with advocating for the poor tobacco lobby, or for poor big tobacco, I should say. And in the clip I'm going to show you that's the most recent example of this, he is advocating for nicotine. And he's aggravated because he feels people are pushing THC but demonizing nicotine. How dare they? And watch the end of this clip very closely to what he says about nicotine. It is so strange.
Why do they hate tobacco? And it's not because it causes cancer. They don't care about your health. They closed the gyms during COVID. Anyone who closed a gym during a pandemic that killed people who were fat clearly doesn't care about your health at all.
We will circle back to that point, but let's watch the full clip.
They hate nicotine. They love THC. They're promoting weed to your children, but they're not letting you use tobacco or even non-tobacco nicotine delivery devices, which don't cause cancer. Why do they hate nicotine? Because nicotine frees your mind, and THC makes you compliant and passive. That's why they hate it. It's a real threat to them. Why do they hate tobacco?
So nicotine opens your mind, whereas THC makes you compliant. You can be controlled with THC. Now, who is pushing THC to our children? I've missed that movement, but I think it's reasonable to say, here are all of the possible health outcomes of any different substance. And you can make your decision, but if things have a negative enough outcome, we're going to regulate them in such a way. Because it's still legal to get tons of nicotine products, just like how people are pushing for all sorts of different THC products to be legal. It's not to say that we can't also attach the conversation about the health outcomes. Tucker Carlson is saying, well, actually, you've been misled because nicotine is how you open your mind. I will say, though, is it really the right wing's motivation to have an open mind? I haven't noticed that in my personal experience, I'll say. Then to the closing gyms whenever COVID disproportionately hurts people with pre-existing conditions, including obesity. That's not how he said it, but that's how I would say it. That is such a mistelling of what went on. They weren't closing the gyms because it was like, we don't want people to work out. It was because the way that this disease, yes, that affected people in a particular, many different categories, but also it's a respiratory disease that if you're right next to somebody waiting for them to finish up on the bench press, then you may be more likely to get COVID. Now, let's talk about the other example. You remember this when he brought Troy Nels onto his show to talk about the poor big tobacco?
Congressman, grateful that you're here, willing to stand up for the most American of all pleasures, which is tobacco. Sorry to say it, it's true, it founded the country. Tell us why it's important for you to burn a cigar occasionally in your office.
Really addressing the pressing issues of our time. I don't know. Sometimes I genuinely think that he just looks around and thinks, what is the most opposite opinion of the people that I dislike? Okay, people are trying to advocate on behalf of at least being mindful of the health outcomes of tobacco products. I'm going to take the pro-tobacco stance just because I can and just because maybe it'll own the libs. And that's the top priority of people like Tucker Carlson.